who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50-plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate. We love to argue. You'll get the real story from inside the locker room, and you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
All right, we got a new open. We got to figure out how to work that into the beginning of the show, but I like it. That was cool.
Yeah, nice. You know what that means, Jody? It's week one. It's here. It's here.
Oh,
it's finally here.
Those two things are going hand in hand. You're suggesting that's probably
you got to revamp everything for week one.
All right,
that's how it is. New season, new everything.
Eagles aren't revamping much these days. Tinkering would be a better way to look at it as we are now. 5 days away. Count them. 5 days away from the start of the 2022 season, all off season. We're evaluating. We're watching the roster. We're looking at the moves the Eagles make, who they go to war with. A couple more moves over the weekend, things that they have to deal with, decisions they have to make. Not massive needle movers, but got to get your take on all of them, Johnny Mac. This one came down yesterday. And I was doing a show on WIP, and damn, I missed it right before the show started. But I had Brandon Lee Gouton on, who advised me that it had just come down. Anthony Harris, who the Eagles cut, and they made the trade for Chauncey Gardner, and eventually brought Harris back on the practice squad, was on the practice squad for a couple of days. And then apparently he went to the Eagles and said, yeah, I think I can do better than the practice squad. So the Eagles, and he agreed that they would sever ties and move on. Not going to be a Philadelphia Eagle, or at least not the next couple of days. We'll see if he ever comes back. But I was not surprised by it. Here's what I was surprised by. Our buddy Ruben Frank on NBC Sports Philly wrote that he said he would not be surprised if Anthony Harris actually got elevated and started week one for the Philadelphia Eagles. I didn't see that a little bit. There's a reason that they cut him. They think they need to be better at that position. And you've been touting the fact that they want the flexibility of being able to bring him on or take him off the roster. And if he's on the roster week number one, then he's guaranteed his whole salary for the whole year. So that made no sense to me. I didn't think there was a chance he was going to be elevated, but I also didn't think he was going to walk away. What does Anthony Harris splitting with the Eagles mean, Johnny Mac?
Couple things. One of two things, I think. And, Ruben's point is an interesting one, because I have to ask, and I don't know, because you can elevate practice squad players now. They changed the rules for COVID, but they've carried them over. And the old rule was vested veteran on week one. His contract is guaranteed for the season. However, he's not on the 53-man roster. He's elevated from the practice squad. So that might be a technical thing.
But don't you have to cut somebody?
No, you can elevate players from the practice squad, just like last year. So if you want to elevate up to 2 practice squad players, they don't count against the 53. Now, they count against the game day roster. In other words, you have to make somebody on the 53 inactive. Sometimes that won't matter deeper in the season when guys are injured, but this early, you would have to make somebody else inactive that's actually on the 53-man roster. But that part's changed a little bit. So I do have to clarify that, because he wouldn't have been a member of the 53-man roster technically. So maybe the Eagles were trying to go a loophole. That's what I guess Ruben was thinking. I'm not sure.
Is there, sorry to interrupt, just to further clarify, and I don't know, and you're not sure if you know or not. can you do that multiple weeks?
Yeah, you can
just
elevate
keep doing
guys.
it and doing it and doing it because you
No,
just keep doing
there's
it. Then it's a 55-man roster. If they give you 2 practice squads elevations every single week, is there a limitation of how many times you can do it with an individual player?
The limitation is 3 for each player on the practice squad. It used to be 2, so it's actually gone up. So you can only do it 3 times. It would have made sense early in the season. I think the Eagles made a mistake. I think they should have paid $1.5 million to Anthony Harris. Who cares? Just to have it there as a backup, because we've talked about it. 10 days, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I don't care how smart he is. I don't care how good he is. I don't care anything about that. 10 days. 10 days. I find it very hard to believe. And I talked to a personnel guy. He gave me a ballpark figure. He said you could probably get him 70% of the call sheet. If he is as smart as people say he is, probably 70% in that time frame. And that's if you're working overtime. That's if the coaches are working overtime with the player in that kind of time frame. So either way, he's not getting a full sort of digestion of the playbook that quickly. I mean, it's just common sense. So I thought, well, why not keep Anthony Harris for early in the season? Great if it doesn't work out. And again, you're talking about a little bit of money. The veteran minimum is, I think, 1.12. So again, the Eagles already paid him $1 million when he signed. So all I had less was $1.5 million. I get budgeting. I get they're probably going to cut him at some point. You'd like to save a couple $100,000, but I think the insurance policy would have been more valuable, not because of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, but more so because of what's behind, the Kayvon Wallaces of the world, the Reed Blankenships of the world, the Josiah Scouts of the world. Those are unproven guys at the safety position. And this is a team that hits week 1 with these extraordinary expectations. And everything in this league is always about injury, right? Well, what happens if somebody gets hurt at safety? You don't want to say that, but obviously you don't want to think that, but you have to have a contingency.
Mm-hmm.
Are you comfortable throwing Kayvon Wallace out there? Are you comfortable throwing Reed Blankenship, Josiah Scott out there? I don't know. You can't have everything, but I think it would have been a valuable insurance policy to keep Anthony Harris around. As for why he left, he signed and left. I'm hearing that maybe he's going to get a 53-man offer, and the Eagles said, "All right, because of what you did, they do respect him as a player, as a person, as what he did in the community. They're going to give him that opportunity." He certainly seemed to be saying goodbye to Philadelphia on social media, so he essentially said goodbye. So we'll see in the upcoming days, but it certainly looks like he's probably got a 53-man roster spot offer. And, the biggest surprise to me, Jody, was that he signed on the practice squad to begin with.
Right.
That was the biggest surprise
same here.
to me.
And again, you're better at the ins and outs and the rules of the roster. Any team could have basically just picked them off the Eagles practice squad, right? If they were going to put them on their 53. Any player on the practice squad is eligible to be acquired for nothing. All you have to do is make sure you give him a 53-man roster spot, right? It wasn't like he needed to get permission to leave the Eagles. If he had a 53-man or his agent had a promise from a team, we're going to put you on the 53, they could just have gone ahead and enacted that, right?
Yes and no. There's 4 players you can protect every week, and the Eagles do it. They did it every week last year. A lot of teams don't even do it, which I never understood, to be honest. And I think that tells you the attention to detail in Philadelphia versus other places. Tuesday, today. So I keep thinking today's Monday, but obviously Labor Day. 4 o'clock, you can protect up to 4 players on the practice squad. Eagles did it every week last year. I assume they're going to do it every week this year.
It doesn't cost you anything. Why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, exactly. That's a question for other teams, because a lot of teams didn't do it, or they didn't protect up to 4. What are you saying about your own practice squad if you can't protect 4 players? It's not costing you anything, as you said, Jody. It makes absolutely no sense to me. But you can guarantee week 1 he would have been protected, because he would have probably been a candidate to be elevated for the game because of all the issues we talked about in the 10 days. It doesn't hurt. So it would have made sense to me. But, the Eagles paid sort of deference to Anthony Harris, and his agent and him asked to be released, and they released him.
Okay, and we'll see if he does land with another team over the next 48 hours. The other piece of new Eagle information 5 days away from kickoff against the Lions was Andre Dillard is actually going to have surgery on his arm. I believe that the injury took place last Thursday. So they waited upwards of 5 days before they officially decided to get the surgery done. At least as per reports, the amount of time that he's going to miss is basically the same. When he first got hurt, the guesstimation was 4 to 6 weeks. I'm seeing 4 to 6 weeks again, even after the surgery. So the surgery doesn't necessarily push it back, but it did take them several days to decide, we better get this surgery done. Why do you think it took so long? And do you buy the fact that even with surgery, the amount of time that Dillard's going to be out of the lineup is the same?
I don't buy the 4 to 6 weeks, to be honest. I think that's very optimistic. All you can do in these types of situations is research. And when he did get injured, I looked at the Society of Orthopedic Surgeons, their recommendations, usually with adults with that injury. They said typically you have surgery to stabilize it for the rehab. That's exactly what happened. As far as the time frame, a lot of times with surgery, remember, you have to let the swelling go down. So it's not, you're waiting, you're unsure. I think they were pretty sure because, as I said, most non-athlete adults who break their forearm have to get surgery to get it stabilized for the rehab. So I'm kind of sure they made that decision right away. Probably had to wait a little bit of time for the swelling to go down. That's probably the timing aspect of it. And 4 to 6 weeks, probably 6 to 8 is what I saw. But he's a pro athlete, so maybe it is ramped up a little bit, but I think that's optimistic. But he certainly, I think at some point this week, and the Eagles don't have to do it till Saturday, really. He's going to be on injured reserve, short-term injured reserve, and that'll open up a roster spot as well.
All right, we've got a good one coming for you here today on Birds 365. As we do continue to count down to Game 1 versus the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Detroit Lions in Detroit. Johnny Mac off to Detroit. I know one of his favorite places on the whole planet.
Romulus.
You're Romulus, off to Romulus Michigan. Again?
Yes. The beautiful airport, Detroit Airport, Romulus, Michigan.
That's where Johnny Mac is headed. We're going to head out with our couple of guests that we've got coming up. Scott Grayson, sports anchor for Fox 29, and the host of Props and Locks on Fox 29 is going to hop aboard coming up in less than 5 minutes from now. And then a little bit later, we're going to be joined by a guy you should recognize. I know you're going to recognize the name. Former Eagle great linebacker Seth Joyner is going to jump in with us. As you should know by now, if you're a fan of the JAKIB Sports YouTube channel, Seth is going to be part of the big Eagles post-game show here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. We are very lucky to have Seth jumping aboard with us, and is going to be here every single week after every single Eagle game. Very much looking forward to seeing the job that Seth does for us here at JAKIB Sports. I've been trying to get Seth on the last couple of weeks. He's, as you can well guess, been busy, but he carved out a spot for us today, so he's going to join us in hour number 2. Very much looking forward to seeing and having the chance to chop it up with Seth Joyner, specifically about the linebackers, because first I want to see if Seth's as excited as yours truly and Johnny Mac are. Eagles have linebackers. They've got not only good linebackers, they got linebacker depth. When was the last time the Eagles had linebacker depth? probably since when Seth Joyner played. So we will talk about the entire team and certainly the linebacker play with Seth Joyner a little bit later. But coming up first, Scott Grayson from Fox 29 is going to hop aboard with us here on a game week edition. Yes, it has finally arrived. John McMullen, Jody McDonald here with you on Birds 365.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Welcome to Pondley Hockey, the largest workers' compensation law firm in Pennsylvania. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. Even better, Pondley Hockey doesn't charge a dime until you win. If you've been injured at work, give Pondley Hockey a call.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
John McMullen, Jody McDonald, your Birds 365 duo here on the JAKIB YouTube channel. Scott Grayson from Fox 29 should jump aboard here in the next couple of minutes. Johnny Mac, the one other thing that came down over the last few days, and it's funny because I checked my social media and I don't think I got a call on it yesterday when I was on WIP, but maybe that was me not giving it all that much attention. Jason Peters, decade-long Eagles stalwart at left tackle, probable Hall of Famer, and played the majority of his career right here in Philadelphia, may finish off his career in Dallas. We know the Cowboys are desperate for left tackle help with Tyron Smith going down. They're probably going to move the first-round draft pick that they took this year and converted to a guard out to left tackle again. But they need a safety net. Well, I'll give you this much. Jason Peters, big safety net. He signed on with the practice squad of the Cowboys, which gives him flexibility to bring him up, put him in whenever he's ready, and we'll see how long that takes. I know some people, at least via social media on my Twitter account, were put off by the fact that Jason Peters, how dare he sign with the Cowboys? Really? Does Jason Peters with the Cowboys worry you a little bit, Johnny Mac?
No. Plus, it doesn't worry me that he signed with the Cowboys. That's who's offering him a job. He wants to continue playing. He's, by the way, he's from Queen City, Texas, so which is about less than 3 hours from Dallas. So he's a Texas native to go along with it. Technically, that's his hometown team, but yeah, I mean, he's 40 years old. You've seen him his last years with the Eagles. He wasn't the same player in Chicago. But, it's more of, and we got Scott Grayson, our buddy from Box 29, smiling face. Good to see you, Scott. Jason Peters, he's a legend. People talk about him with reverence still in this building. Jordan Mailata did it last week. You saw Ross Tucker. You saw Ross do a thread on the guy. The guy's a legend, but it's more an indictment of the rest of the NFL, how offensive line deficient this league is, that they kind of dip into the Jason Peters pool. The Eagles did it when they were going to move him the right guard, Scott, and then the injury happened and they had to move him back to left tackle. And Jason's like, well, you better give me more money if you want me to play left tackle. He was a great player here. I don't have any issue. Do you, Scott Grayson, have any issue with Jason Peters playing in Dallas?
No, I mean, as you know, and these guys, as you, I thought, alluded to as well, and we've talked about this before in the past. It's a business. These guys are trying to make a living. And look, the guy's trying to hold on as long as he can. He's 40 years old playing offensive line. I mean, that in and of itself is just miraculous. And what the Cowboys were tapping into here is as much of his mentorship and his knowledge as they are his skills, which, as we've seen, it's on a 40-year-old body. I don't know how he does it, right? I mean, I'm 43. You try to play a football game and you tell me I'm going to get up the next morning against those 300-plus defensive linemen. It's that's got to beat you up. And look, we criticized him. One of my biggest problems with Jason Peters towards the end of his time here was, he just couldn't stay on the field by the end of a game. Now, you can ask yourself, is 3/4 of Jason Peters worth what you're paying him? And I think the Cowboys are bringing him in here because they want to take whatever they can get out of him. They're obviously in a desperate position at that spot. And I think they're looking to use as much of his knowledge, and he's happy to give it as long as they're writing the checks and Jerry will pay him to go down there and do it. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I like the way you look at it, Scott, that they're paying for his knowledge, maybe more than his actual abilities on the field. And I immediately jumped to the abilities on the field. And that's why it didn't bother me. I remember what Jason Peters looked like in his last year here in Philadelphia. I talked to someone over the weekend who had him last year in Chicago and watched him attempt to play left tackle for the Bears. He's got none left in the tank. He might be smart. He might be a mentor. I saw Jordan Mailata talking about it, that he still considers him a mentor and isn't surprised that he's still out there and that he was a good team. All that. That's right. And you pointed it out. He can't play. And he's not going to play for the Cowboys. And if he plays, chances are, as you correctly stated, he's going to get hurt. So unless he's actually out there helping the Cowboys win games, how can I have a problem with Jason Peters signing on with the Cowboys?
People will forget about it. People forgotten that Harold Carmichael played with the Cowboys.
Randall
played with the Cowboys. Tommy McDonald played with the Cowboys. So, who's ever calling the phone at the end of your career, you're picking it up and saying, if you want to play, I'm going to play for the Cowboys. But
right.
Yeah, is he better than Tyler Smith as a rookie? Probably. Is he better than Tyron Smith? No, not even close. So desperate. Well, I got to tell you, Jody, for the Chicago Bears, he was their best left tackle. Now, he was in and out just like he was here, but they're a disaster. So at least he knows how to play. I think that's where the Cowboys are with Jason Peters. He knows how to play. He'll be better than a rookie who probably shouldn't have been drafted in the first round. Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones. That's about all the Cowboys are going for, in my estimation.
Yeah, I talked to somebody who covers the Bears last yesterday, as a matter of fact, and they said, yeah, he was not good. If he was the best left tackle they had, it's because they had no other left tackles.
Well, yeah. Well, that's part of it. That's
he's
exactly
it.
it.
Look, I, like you guys have been talking about, he's a Hall of Famer. He really is. And what he did here that Super Bowl year was huge. You talked about it yesterday about how he mentored and Vitae at the time and
Vitae, yeah,
right. And and so he played a role in that on them winning that ring that year. And I think all Eagles fans should appreciate what he did here. Don't deprive the man from having an opportunity to take some of the Cowboys' money because, in effect, they don't have it to spend on somebody else now. And I think, frankly, if he lines up against Brandon Graham or you get Reddick out there on him, fine. I'll take that matchup every day of the week. If he's still playing at the time the Eagles play him, he might be hurt by then. He might be off, on the bench by then. Who knows?
And by the way, the Cowboys signed him to the practice squad to start out. So he's got to ramp up and get in shape. Yeah. So
right. Yeah. He admitted yesterday that till he puts the pads and the helmet on and gets out there and runs around, he said he's been working out and trying to stay in shape, but he's not in football shape, which I understand. And again, a 40-year-old body, you got to ramp that thing back up. It's going to take some time.
All right, Scotty, need your take on the Eagle offense this year. We all assume that the Eagles are going to throw the football more. They didn't pay A.J. Brown $100 million to come in and block to replace J-Jaw as a quality blocking wide receiver. No, we expect them to throw the football more. They led the National Football League in rushing last year, and it worked for them. It got them into the playoffs. Do you have faith in the Eagles to find that right balance? They're going to throw more. Anyone thinks they're going to go right back to what they did. No, they're not. But if they go a little heavy-handed on it, get away from the run, guys like Jody McDonald, John McMullen, and maybe Scott Grayson will second-guess them a little bit. Do you have faith that the Eagles' brain trust on the offensive side will find and strike the right balance run-to-pass ratio?
I have faith is a very strong word, Jody. I have faith that they might eventually find the right balance. Do I have faith that they will come out of the chute in week one with it? I don't really think so. And look, some of that's human nature. If I'm calling the plays and I look now and I have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and I look out there and I have Dallas Goedert, who you look fine. You want to go take A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith away? That's fine. I'll exploit you over the middle of the field with Dallas Goedert all day. Kenny Gainwell coming out of the backfield. I look at it and I say, boy, they really have the offense, the weapons at this point to go out and have some fun in the passing game. Now, then we get back to the question of, do they have the right guy throwing the ball? Well, we're going to find out. I mean, the excuses are out the window now. He's got the opportunity and the weapons there to do what needs to be done. But when I look at this offense, its strength to me is the offensive line. This offensive line, when healthy, is, in my opinion, as good as any other out there in the league. And how do you not run the ball behind the amount of beef you have on the left side? Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson, and throw Kelsey in the middle there because he's part of that as well. How do you not run behind that and at least pick up 3 yards to stay on schedule? Now, that being said, if they're going to start then trying to take away the run, my game plan would be simple. It would be run the ball till they try to take the run away, and then you just go over the top or you hit A.J. Brown on a slant and let the guy run through tackles. It seems like it should be simple, and I have a feeling they're going to overcomplicate things in week one.
I have a feeling you're right, Scott. I have a feeling you're right. That's an interesting conversation, so I want to flesh that out with you further because I'm on board, I think, where you are. But I'm also on board where Jody is in the fact that they're going to throw the football more. I think a lot of teams, and I fall prey to this, and I'm going to self-scout myself. I assume NFL teams are smart, and I shouldn't always assume that. I look at the Eagles, and you see you have the 2 phases of last year, basically week 1 through 6, really week 1 through 5.5, where they said, you know what, we put too much on Jalen Hurts' plate. Then they scaled back, became more of a run-first offense. They had tremendous success from that point forward, made the playoffs. We all know the story. Now, they're better, obviously, talent-wise. A.J. Brown everything kind of fits into place. He's the puzzle piece. All of a sudden, Devontae Smith isn't a wide receiver 1. He's a wide receiver 2. You got the great tight end. Quez Watkins is in the 2. He's a 3. Everything falls into place. It looks great on paper. To me, that's where the improvement should come from. You play the same way, but when the time is to throw the ball, you're better because you have better talent. That, to me, should be the plan. I don't think it's going to be the plan because the Eagles and a lot of other teams watched that divisional round playoff game between the Chiefs and the Bills, and they said, oh boy, we can't keep up with that. I have 2 problems with that. One, that's not an every week scenario for even Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. They don't play like that every week. Jim Schwartz used to say every game has a personality. That game had a personality. It was a shootout. They don't play like that every week. But my larger point is, why are you trying to copycat Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen? You can't do it. So maximize what you have. That's where I am. Am I crazy, or does that make sense to you?
No, it makes perfect sense to me, but I think you also make a great point in that everybody saw that last year and said, "Oh, hey, I want that on my team." And we all know what the personality of this owner is.
Yeah.
He wants that. He wants to see that ball slinging through the air. He wants to go up and down the field through the air. He understands that you can't pass 100% of the time, but you don't always know exactly what the message is behind the scenes. And look, we got AJ Brown. He wants to roll out that nice new shiny toy. He wants to see that guy light up the scoreboard on Sunday. Will they do what needs to be done? I think you can do all that. I think you can definitely. There's more than one way to get to what you want. I think you can be a passing team. If you make the opponent respect the run first, it should open up a lot of things. And if bigger windows are there for Jalen Hurts to throw through, are you now not putting that guy in a position to succeed more than if you come out of the chute and try to fit the ball into some tight spots? I think the start of this season is going to be huge to try to dictate whether or not they build some confidence in Hurts, whether or not they, try to establish a little bit of an identity. Remember, that was the problem last year. We kept saying, what's the identity of this team? What's the identity of this offense? And we did the same thing with the defense, and I'm sure we're going to go there here in a little bit. But I think this team needs to find its identity, start establishing that in week 1, build on it in week 2. By the time you get to week 3, now you're really able to start rolling some things out of the playbook off of what you've done to really create some tendencies that you want to counter. And you have the ability to be balanced. I think all 3 of us don't expect that to be the case, particularly early on. But I think you're right. I think the league looked at that game and said, a lot of the owners, oh, hey, that's hot. I want that. But the people who understand football a little bit more, and I don't claim to be one of those people who understands as much as coaches around the league, but there's a way to get there. There's a way to get success. And listen, yeah, they were going up and down the field, but if your defense was able to make one stop,
13 seconds. How about focusing on that? Get good enough to stop somebody in 13 seconds, then you win a football. But I digress.
Here's the reason why I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to throw the ball more this year than last year. Last year's statistics, leading rushing teams. Number 1, Philadelphia Eagles made the playoffs at 9-8. Indianapolis Colts didn't make the playoffs. Baltimore Ravens didn't make the playoffs. Cleveland Browns didn't make the playoffs. So the 3 teams behind the Eagles in the ability to run the football, most yards per game, didn't make the playoffs. Go through the teams that led the league in passing last year. Playoffs. Yeah, the league is a passing league, and the Philadelphia. This is one where Howie Roseman isn't willing to zig while everybody else is zagging. He's looking at it and going, yeah, we got to get better at that if we want to stay with the big dogs. All right, Scott, speaking of that opening week, Detroit, I know they've been a bit of a country darling because of Hard Knocks, and I'll watch the last episode tonight. I've enjoyed it. I think it's well done. I would go play for Dan Campbell. He's that kind of a guy. But I also can look at the Detroit roster and say they're just not that good. Why are at least a percentage of Eagle fans and media members here in Philadelphia giving deference to the, oh, you don't want to play the Lions early. You'd rather play the Lions late. They don't know how bad they're going to be. Well, I know how bad they're going to be, and I hope the Eagles know how bad they're going to be. They beat them 44-6 last year. Why can't they go in and do something similar this year?
I really think they can. But I will, let me lead with this. I was knowing I was talking to you guys this morning, I wanted to do a little bit of due diligence, and I was exploring some of the Detroit side, to kind of say, we know what we think about the Eagles, but I'm curious, what do people in Detroit think about the Lions? And I found a couple of articles that were basically saying, they're in a rebuild. We all know that, but how do you know if they're going to be successful is basically whether or not they're getting blown out, whether or not they're getting in games, whether or not their coaching staff is making adjustments in close games. All things they haven't really had to do a whole lot of yet. Now, they were in some close games last year, and they didn't win them. They did win some games at the end. They finished strong. I will give them that. And yes, Dan Campbell can make a lot of people want to run through a wall for him, which I respect. I think that's great. These are professional athletes. They shouldn't need to be motivated to run through a wall. If you pay them enough, they should run through the wall to get the check. But if you need that extra little bit of motivation and fire, go for it. And I like what he brings to the game in that regard. But you're right. You look at that roster, and it's still Jared Goff throwing the ball. Now, the Eagles won 44-6 last year, and their secondary only got better this year.
Nate Sudfeld, Scott. Nate Sudfeld, a play away.
Exactly. And
no, wait a minute. You told me Chauncey Gardner couldn't get up and ready in 10 days. Nate's going to learn that whole playbook in Detroit in 10 days when Goff goes down with a broken leg in the first quarter, huh, Johnny Mac?
Mine is a little sarcasm. I didn't call him unstoppable. Somebody else did.
We know who did.
Yeah.
But I see this. They are, just going back to your point, Jody, they are the Lions. And you can fix a lot of things overnight in the NFL the way it's structured these days. That couldn't be fixed overnight and was going to be a work. Right now, are they heading in the right direction? I think you can certainly say they're making some good. I like Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, I think he's got a bright future in this league. But you look at their roster, you look at their depth chart, you look at their starters, and you look at the Eagles, and it's the famous phrase. And John, you already used it once earlier. On paper, they should be more improved. But if the Eagles come out and are able to, the biggest key to the game here is just get up on top of this team and start taking away. Rather than let the entire building start saying, "Oh, here we go again," right?
Yeah.
And let that be felt there. And the biggest key to me is I just think this Eagles defense needs to set the tone. I really look at them as the ones who, get a short field for Jalen Hurts in the offense at some point. 3 and outs, make them punt a lot. Go hit Jared Goff a lot and perhaps get Nate Sudfeld out there. I don't know, maybe my expectations are a little bit too high, but I know everybody's excited about the offense. Frankly, I'm most curious and most intrigued to see what this defense does in week 1. What personality does it have? What does Jonathan Gannon do with these weapons? Because we were critical of him last year, and I think rightfully so. But the easy argument in his case was he didn't have the right personnel, the right guys there. Well, they really do now. So I want to see this defense come out and really be the reason the Eagles win the game in week 1.
I want to get into the defense with you, but before I do, Scott, I do want to talk about where Detroit is clearly better than the Eagles, and that's special teams. That is my one concern, and nobody cares about special teams. Nobody cares. I know the Lions have a better punt returner because the Eagles don't have a punt returner. So I know they have one advantage, Khalif Raymond as their punt returner. What's going on with the Eagles and special teams? Back when you had Chris Maragos and Brian Brayman, Najee Good, the Eagles seemed to identify a couple really good special teams players and save spots for them on the 53-man roster. They don't seem to do that anymore.
No.
And I think it's a mistake.
I completely agree with you, and I'm glad you brought that up because it really does look like it has become an afterthought to this team. You have 5 plays. Well, you have a punt returner who doesn't know what he's doing and catches the ball at the 2-yard line on a fair catch, or lets it bounce at the 13 and it rolls dead at the 2. That really can hamper you're basically forcing a 3 and out because you're content just not to get a safety at that point and be able to kick the ball away and work yourself into 5-6 yards out of the end. It can change a game. As we've seen in the past, some of those great Eagle teams, as you alluded to the personnel at the past, won games because of what those special teams units did. And it does feel like this team is overlooking that in a bit of a big way. And you do feel like it's gonna bite them at some point, right? A muffed punt at some point. And I agree with you. Like, I've started wondering, if you don't have the guy who knows where he is on the field and can make that fair catch in traffic, and you don't have 100% confidence he's going to pull it in, why not just go for the block and let it be downed? I mean, at least then you're not turning it over at the 10-yard line to an inferior Detroit Lions team, perhaps, that could end up changing a game and perhaps even causing you a loss. To me, I agree with you, John. It's a little bit egregious and malpractice on this team, the way they've treated special teams, as much as Howie has done with everything else, for the positive. And I don't want to start singing Howie's praises too much, because I've been critical of him in the past. They've ignored special teams, and they don't have that specialist at various levels to be able to win games like that. I think one of the biggest plays of the Super Bowl winning year was Jake Elliott's 61-yard field goal against the Giants. Seemed to just get everything going in the right direction. And you're right. They had great punt returners in the past who could break one and get a miracle at the Meadowlands. Do they have that guy right now that you think is there that could break?
I don't even know who's going to return punts. None of us know. I'm going to talk to Michael Clay later. He's not going to tell me. We don't know. I have no stinking idea who's going to return punts in Detroit.
Well, it shouldn't decide the Lions game, but there's going to be games down the line where you could point to this. Why did he catch that ball? That should have been a touchback. 20 yards of field position is a huge difference in that league.
Good for the special teams coach, because he's taking one out of the playbook of the head coach. We need that competitive advantage. We don't want to tell anybody anything ahead of time. We want to surprise them.
Which crappy option are we going to put back there? That's
exactly.
That's a competitive.
Let's go for the block.
Yeah. And I'll give you my opinion on why the Eagles don't have Chris Marigosa or the like on this team. Pretty simple. Situational substitutions. Everybody likes to have 8 guys that rolling in there on a defensive line and passing down linebackers and running down linebackers and the 4 backs in the backfield that if you don't have a bell cow back, we'll get them all in there and keep them fresh and the like. That's what the game's become. It's situational substitution. And when you only got 53, what's going to get cut? Yeah, your special teams savant.
You're using an extra spot on a quarterback right now. They've got 3 quarterbacks on the 53.
Yeah. And Ian Book, he really doesn't have much of a ceiling as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what you guys feel, but I don't see the developmental potential. Like, they tried to claim Kellen Mond. I know Jody and I have talked about this. Jody's not a big fan.
Nope.
But at least he's got traits to where you can say, all right, if he figured it out. I don't see that with Ian Book. That was a little bit of a surprise to me.
It was a puzzling move at the time, and the only thing I could think is, Howie always wants to be the smartest guy in the room, and sometimes he proves that. This case, I feel like he got Ian Book because the moment a quarterback goes down, he can dangle Gardner Minshew out there, and we all know how he loves to just stockpile draft picks. So that is where I think that came from. But as we pointed out, it takes up for now an extra spot on that 53-man roster. And every one of those guys is very valuable come Sunday.
Defense. So you brought it up a couple times, so we'll talk about that. If I tell you, and we're going to have Seth Joyner in an hour too, I'm definitely going to ask Seth this, so I'm going to practice on you, Scott. If I tell you from an aggressive standpoint, it's going to be the exact same thing, but it's going to be better because of the talent. Are you happy with that?
I'm happy. I don't care what the method is to get there, right? But I'm happy when you're hitting the quarterback. I don't care if he gets rid of the ball. I mean, that was the biggest thing. All you had to do was scare Eli Manning, and you could force a turnover.
Yeah.
All you had to do was hit Tom Brady, even if he got rid of the ball, and you start making him uncomfortable. I need this defense just to get to him and hit the quarterback every week. And obviously not a Derek Barnett 15-yard penalty, but get in there. And per the rules, get legit hits on these quarterbacks because I think that's the biggest way that then ultimately you bang them around enough and they don't want to take another shot. They're going to get rid of that ball.
And Jared Goff is that kind of quarterback, by the way.
Yeah, and so you could scare Jared Goff into just throwing the ball up, and you start throwing the ball up, and a guy like Darius Slay is going to start smacking his lips and wanting that ball, and thinking pick six. So I don't care what the method is. If it is the same playbook as last year, but you just have better people to run your plays, I really don't care. I'm not one of those people who's banging the table saying we've got a blitz. But if you can't get to the quarterback with your regular pass rush, then you've got to find a way to get to the quarterback. To me, that's the biggest key. In all you want to do is just disrupt what they're trying to do. Well, the biggest key to me is you got to get back there one way or another. And with Reddick, with Brandon Graham back, with Jordan Davis, with Nakobe Dean, I think, is going to actually be a playmaker for this team at times. You just look down the line, and they've got more guys that you think should get there. And I think, to me, I don't care what it looks like, but just get there, because last year they didn't, and they let teams go up and down the field. You just got to find a way to get there. That's all I think this defense needs to do, and everything will fall into place.
Scotty, you and I are very close on this. Here's my take. If Jonathan Gannon wants to run the same defense that he ran last year, and it works just because they got better players, and that's how they start and that's how they finish, good job, coach. But if they go to a first half and they've got a handful of pressures and one quarterback hit and 0 sacks, here's what you got to do in the second half. Blitz. Not, well, that's not the way we do it. Well, no, you have to be able to analyze your own team in game. If you're not getting a job done, you have to react. You have to make changes. And that was my biggest knock on Gannon last year. Not that he didn't blitz from the first play of the game. They didn't make the right adjustments and change things in game in some of the games where the defense didn't play well. And there were a handful of them last year. He's got to be able to react. And I know no one ever wants to admit that the other team is dictating terms, but sometimes they are, and you have to be able to adjust and make the calls on the fly. So I'm with mostly with you, Scott, pretty damn close to what John is as well. Oh, I don't need the blitz until I do. And when I do, I better be ready to blitz is the way I look at it.
Well, and you look at it too, and I think the biggest thing last year that was frustrating was you could see they were just playing not to get beat over the top. Well, I mean, Tom Brady, he's happy to just go down the field and keep racking up first downs if that's what you're going to give him. And so you've got to find a way to make them uncomfortable. And I'm a big fan of dictate the series on first down. Don't just try to win first down and get somebody down short of 3 yards and say, okay, well, we won first down. You take a team and you drop Jared Goff back into a 2nd and 13, that series is essentially over. All you have to do is just not make a stupid bonehead penalty, Derek Barnett, and you're good to go. And so that's, I think, some of what I'd like to see, some of that mentality. We're Philadelphia. We love that. We love Jim Johnson going out there. And from the moment that ball was snapped on the first play of the game, he was coming to bring his defense and make sure you knew they were there that day. I'm not saying we're going to have that here. I'm not expecting that here, frankly. But I do miss those days, and I loved that kind of personality. Yeah, but I agree with you, Jody. That's
Philadelphia, baby.
Exactly. I agree with you in that when you can't get there, then you need to be able to say, okay, let's open up the playbook for some blitzes, and we'll time this right. We don't have to do it every play. But when we get into a 2nd and 6, let's blitz him. It's Jared Goff. Get in his face. And I agree with you, Jody, that I'm fine with whatever he wants to run if they're getting there. But I can't stand to sit and watch a team go up and down the field because you're afraid to get beat over the top.
That's coverage, baby. 8 in coverage. Love to see it. At Ask Grayson Box 29, host of Props and Locks with her old friend Eitan Sanders. Breland on that show now?
Breland's joined us now. Yeah, she's bringing some knowledge too.
Breland Moore, her and Devin Caney doing chugs at the Phillies game all the time. So I'll leave you. I need a prop from Scott Grayson, an Eagles prop, and I need an Eagles lock, preferably the lock on where's this team going. What do you think the ceiling is? Prop, it can be anything. Jalen Hurts, 4,000 yards. Fans better hope not. A.J. Brown, over 1,000 yards. Dallas Goedert, over 1,000 yards. Give me an Eagles prop. Give me an Eagles lock.
I like the prop of you're talking about for the season. I I would focus on A.J. Brown. I think the guy yards after catch is so big, and I think that they're not going to necessarily look to complete the long pass to him. I think they're going to have plays dialed up where they get him the ball, high percentage completion, and let him try to do some things. Now, the biggest thing I hope they fixed is it was so frustrating seeing some of those screen plays last year get flagged back. They had touchdowns called back. And I think A.J. Brown is a guy who you give me a screen pass to him, a couple of blocks in front of him, and let him win a tackle one-on-one and go off to the races, and he can rack up yards that way. So I do like the idea of A.J. Brown being a 1,000-yard receiver this year. And that's something, of course, we'll be watching. The question is, if he does get off to a hot start, what do teams do to try to take him away? And can somebody else on the team step up? But that's not his problem. As far as locks, I'm still a 12-win guy on the team.
12.
I'm still sitting at 12. I know the over-under has been sitting at, I think, 9.5 or something like that. Yeah. I just look at this division, and perhaps I'm discounting Wentz and the Commodores. It sounds like a band. Or I just don't have any respect for the Giants. I just don't see any reason.
No, they're rebuilding. They admit they're rebuilding. Basically.
So you got to find 4 wins in those 2 games, in my opinion. And I think you split with the Cowboys. So now you got 5 wins. Now you got to win 7 somewhere else. We all know that the beginning of the schedule is relatively. I think they can get to 12 wins, win the division. But my whole definition of success, I don't care if they don't get 12 wins. This team has to win a playoff game in order for me to call this year a success. Now, am I calling that a lock? I'm not calling that a lock because I haven't seen this team play a game yet to understand how they might get there. But if I'm looking for something to recommend, I think this team gets to 12 wins. So over 9.5 for sure.
All right, Scotty, don't know if they actually have a prop out there for this, but I would at least look into it. What do you think the odds would be or should be for the Eagles to go 6-0 in division? If you think they're beating the Commodores,
I love that everybody calls them the Commodores,
and they're going to win that first game against the Cowboys here. It all comes down to Christmas Eve. They're in Dallas. They could be 5-0 in the division at that time. If they win that game, they go 6-0. What do you think the odds are on the Eagles? By the way, there was one team in the National Football League last year who went 6-0 in division. And that, unfortunately, was the Dallas Cowboys because the Eagles played their JV the last game of the season. Otherwise, they might not have gotten 6-0. So it's not an easy feat by any stretch of the imagination. What do you think the odds should be Eagles 6-0 in division?
Yeah, I'd probably put that at something like plus 1,000 because I'd want people to bet that for all the reasons that you said. It's just so hard. It's so hard to beat a team twice and beat 3 teams twice in one season, let alone 3 of those games being on the road. I mean, I just don't have faith. Faith again. We'll round up where we began with that word. I don't have faith in this team to go 6-0 in the division. They're going to trip up somewhere. I think it's going to be, I would say, a split with the Cowboys and they go 5-1. They might end up beating the Cowboys 2-0 and slipping up against Wentz and the Commodores down there in Washington.
I'm going 4-2. By the way, I think they're splitting with the Commanders and the Cowboys, which is not bad. By the way, 4-2 is not bad. I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah, it's I think 4-2 is probably more likely. I'd like to believe they can go 5-1 because I think that's going to be a key to getting to 12 wins, like I said. But I think that I think 6-0 would be very unlikely. And you're right, Jody. It's so hard to do for any team in this league, even teams with bad divisions.
If it's 5-1, take the over. You get a push at 5-1, and there is a possibility they could win all 6 games.
It's true. It is possible.
Scotty, good stuff. We appreciate whenever you jump aboard with us. We'll be watching you each and every single Sunday on Fox 29 every day with props and locks. Always good when you join us here on Birds 365. Thanks, bud.
I love talking football with you guys. Enjoy the season.
Thanks, Grayson, Fox 29 here with us on Birds 365. All right, Jody Mac, the Mac guys on Birds 365. We'll come back. A couple more things I want to work through with John leading up to Detroit, Eagles roster issues and the like. And then about 25 minutes from now, Seth Joyner is scheduled to join us, part of our JAKIB Sports Eagles post-game show right here on the Eagles YouTube channel. Looking forward to talking some football, specifically linebackers, with Seth Joyner. He's coming up in less than 25 minutes here on Birds 365.
Philadelphia fans, were cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
The faces you know, the team you trust. The Delaware Valley's leading news program, Action News.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
At Pondley Hockey, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pondley Hockey a call.
You got Jody McDonald and John McMullen, a.k.a. the Mac and Mac duo here on Birds 365. 5 days till the Eagles season gets underway in Detroit. Johnny Mac will be there covering it live for us, for Philly Boys, for Sports Illustrated, staying in his favorite town of Romulus, Michigan, but ready to watch the Eagles get the season underway. Johnny Mac, first play from scrimmage, which will probably be the second series of the game because the coach will win the flip of the coin and then defer.
And by the way, he should defer this week, Jody. I'm all on board. Defer. All you want against the Detroit Lions. Now, when you play a high-powered offense, you got to be self-aware, and then you got to do the opposite. That's my problem with the Eagles in the coin toss. By the way, Joel Corey, my buddy, the ex-agent who works for CBS Sports, I asked him, and he got back to me already. So thanks, Joel. Elevation. So if Anthony Harris was elevated for week 1, does not count. So he would not get his contract fully guaranteed as a practice squad elevation. So just wanted to firm that up. So that is a loophole. The Eagles could have used that loophole, and they wouldn't have had to guarantee Anthony Harris's entire salary.
That makes more sense now. That's why when I read Ruben Frank suggesting that as a possibility, I said, no. I believe that part of the reason they let Harris go was they wanted the flexibility to not have to pay him his entire guaranteed salary. But if you're telling me they could have just temporarily added him to the game day roster and not had to guarantee his whole salary, that makes a lot more sense. But it's now a moot point because Anthony Harris said, yeah, I'd rather go play for somebody else. And Eagles said, yeah, if you want to go, we're not going to hold you to your practice squad commitment, so he's no longer here. All right, then, Johnny Mac, here's the question. And this goes right back to our buddy, the defensive coordinator, your boy, getting ready for the first game, Jonathan Gannon. One of my knocks against him, and I like the guy. Again, you got to be careful the way you state things because people take them out of context. I'm a Jonathan Gannon fan. I like him. I think he's a good defensive coordinator. I'm glad the Eagles have him. I don't think he's the next coming, and I still don't understand why he got some head coaching interviews last year, but I do like him as the Eagles defensive coordinator. It doesn't mean I have to agree with everything he does. And one of my knocks last year was in-game adjustments. I just don't think he was great at that, and I think he needs to be better at it this year. In-game adjustments for Chauncey Gardner. If you can see breaking down the film, his position coach on top of it knows where he's supposed to be, that he's not quite up to speed, that he is in the wrong place at some time or makes the wrong read and the like. What do the Eagles do if that's the case? First thing first, I guess I should get you on the record. You think he's starting at safety for the Eagles on Sunday, right?
And Nick, basically, I asked Nick that last week. He basically confirmed it. You know, I asked him, how do you get him up to speed? Is it possible to get him up to speed? And then he gave, that was his, we pay Jonathan and Dillard Wilson a lot of money to get these guys up to speed. Yeah, he's going to be out there. He's going to be starting at safety, which that part is not a surprise to me. And the reason I have questions is I don't care who it is. It's not an insult to Chauncey Gardner Johnson. It's, 10 days. And we just went through Jaquiski Tart, who's played safety for 7 years in the NFL on a very good defense, on a very good team, who plays essentially the same scheme, by the way, and terminology differences he was having a problem with all summer. Now, maybe it was just they were trying to protect Jaquiski because he wasn't that good. But which one is it, Jody? He's having trouble. The long-term 7-year safety who plays in the same scheme is having trouble. But the guy who doesn't play safety coming to a new scheme is going to learn it in 10 days. Which one is it? I don't buy that. And when I did talk to that personnel executive, he pegged it at 70%. All right, that I buy. Maybe he's got 70% of the defense in his pocket. And that doesn't mean he's not going to make mistakes because he's only got 70% of the defense in his pocket. So, look, I think Chauncey Gardner Johnson is going to be long-term a significant upgrade for this team. Short-term, I don't know if that's going to be the case.
All right, so my question is about the short-term, a.k.a. Sunday against the Lions. If Gardner is either in the wrong place or not up to speed and or isn't filling his role and what you're supposed to do on every single play because he just hasn't had enough time to know every intricacy of the defense, who's coming in to replace him?
I don't think they are replacing him. I mean, you would have
to have... Well, then I'm going to be critical of your boy JG again. Because if he's getting beat and not making plays, and they're just going to throw him out there because he's our safety and we have to stick with what we're doing. No, you got to be able to adjust and make changes on the fly.
What are we talking about? Like if he's given up 3 touchdowns, all right, then I might agree with you. But part of the reason why is the Lions aren't a good team. And you think you can kind of get by them at not, your optimum level, so to speak. If he gives up a play here and there, no, they're not going to replace him. If he gives up 3 touchdowns in the first half, yeah, then maybe they go, all right, we got to try Kayvon Wallace, we got to try Reed Blankenship. We got to try something else.
That's what I'm trying to get at, John, in case you didn't pick up on it. And I know it's most likely not going to happen. You're right. He's going to stay out there. He will have picked it up. He's going to be fine. But if that's not the case, I guess I'm asking you hypothetical. And he's making things I can recognize, watching the game on TV here in my basement on Sunday. Forget about you in the stadium. I can pick up on it from the television. So it's obvious the coaching staff's going to see, oh, man, he wasn't where he's supposed to be. Who will be the guy they will call on to plug the hole when they get him off the field?
I would think well, a couple things. I would think it would be Kayvon Wallace. I would choose Reed Blankenship. I don't even think Kayvon Wallace deserved to make this team, but this is the reason I would have kept Anthony Harris. This is the exact reason. It would have been easy. Ultimately, though, look, if somebody's having a bad game people don't like Derek Barnett, then you can go to, just play Josh Sweat some more, Brandon Graham. You can even go to Teron Jackson. You talked about the linebackers. You finally have some depth. If TJ or Kaiser, the bed, you can go to Nakobe at corner. You have some issues. You're going to have a big drop-off. And at safety, you have a huge drop-off. So I wouldn't criticize Jonathan Gannon for staying with the status quo at safety because he doesn't have an alternative. I would criticize him more on the defensive line and linebacker where he has alternatives. If you don't have an alternative, like if Bradbury has a bad game, and I don't think he's going to have a bad game, you're not going to go to Zach McPherson. I mean, that's crazy. You're shooting yourself in the foot. Same thing at safety. I'm not going to Kayvon Wallace, period. I'm not going to Reed Blankenship.
John, I'm just trying to enforce what you've already said. You told me you talked to an NFL executive who said, 10 days at best, he's going to be 70% up to speed.
And that's why I would have
kept
kept
if he's 70% up to speed, that leaves room for the guy for the coaching staff to be able to judge, he's not getting the job done. Now, you want to talk about a month from now? If he gets beat on a couple of plays, oh my God, we got to get him off the field. No. He's that much better a player than Kayvon Wallace. Get back out there and do it better. I'm only talking about the first week or two here when there is legitimate concern for him not to be up to speed with what the defense expects.
And that's why I would have kept Anthony Harris on the 53.
He's not an option. I can tell you right now, not an option week one, Johnny Mack. He's no longer an Eagle.
And it changes the dynamic. That's my point. I would have paid, essentially, you're paying $1.5 million insurance policy for maybe 4 weeks. And you got to suck it up if you want to cut him from that point forward. It changes the dynamic. If I have Anthony Harris, I'm comfortable sitting him and saying, you know what, Chauncey, you're not ready. Well, let's let Anthony finish things up. I'm not comfortable with the other alternatives. So, Chauncey, you're in the deep end of the pool, buddy. Suck it up. Give me the best you got. I can't go to those other two alternatives. Can't do it. Really? I can't go to Zach McPherson.
Against the Lions, you can't do that.
Can't do it.
If that's the case, then that does not say much about your backups. Then you got two safeties you can't even put in to stop Jared Goff. It's going to get worse later in the year when you start facing better quarterbacks.
That's why
you can't bring yourself to put him in a game against Jared Goff. You're right. Why the hell are they there?
They have these tremendously high expectations. And I've been talking about this for a while. Everything in the NFL is about injuries, everything. But you've already seen it in Dallas with what's going on with Tyron Smith. And they got to bring in 40-year-old Jason Peters. You're already seeing it in Dallas. If the Eagles have an injury at corner or safety, they're in some deep doo-doo. And that's why I would have kept the insurance policy. That's what at safety, you had an insurance policy. I got news for you. I don't think any of their backup cornerbacks can play. And that's the guys they cut as well. I have seen nothing from Zach McPherson. Everybody acts like he's a deference player. I've seen nothing from Zach McPherson. Now, it's a huge drop-off from Darius Slay and James Bradbury. Understandable. Those are two really good players. But it's a huge drop-off. It's a huge, huge drop-off. They're probably a little bit better in the slot because they got a bunch of different players. CJ can play the slot. Josiah Scott can play the slot. And by the way, I didn't even bring up Josiah Scott at safety because he's got a hamstring issue. So he'd probably be ahead of both of them, Kayvon Wallace and Reed Blankenship, if he was healthy. But I'm not confident in him. They have some issues at certain positions with depth. Tight end, we've talked about a lot. Running back, I don't think Kenny Gainwell has had a good summer at all. And we don't know what Trey Sermon is. I do know San Francisco has the best running scheme at football, and they don't think he was good enough. So they have some issues at depth at certain positions, and safety is one of them. And that's why I would have paid Anthony Harris to be an insurance policy.
Yeah, I'm with you on the depth at safety and corner. Man, that is a big drop-off after your first three. I'm okay at tight end. Now, if Grant Calcaterra takes a shot to the helmet week one and he's back on IL with concussion syndromes, yeah, that's a problem. But Goddard's Goddard, and he's going to be really good this year. Yeah, I know it can always be hurt. That's why we're talking about depth. Stoll is what he is. He's a blocking tight end. And if Calcaterra stays healthy, I think he actually can contribute this year. I think they've got as good a tight end room as almost every team in the National Football League right now. Who's got that much better tight end depth than the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, there's certain. Your New York Jets are one of them. They've signed C.J. Uzomah. They signed Tyler Conklin. They drafted a kid in the 3rd round, I think. You would know better than I. I don't know how they're working out.
But Rutgers. No, Ohio State, Ruckert.
Yeah, Jeremy Ruckert. Yeah, that's better. That's better. Not better. Uzomah, I assume, is starting. I don't know.
No, I think Conklin's going to start.
Yeah, Conklin, they're pretty even. They're both good. They're not Goddard, but overall, obviously the Eagles have the better tight end one. But overall, they have more depth at tight end than the Eagles. There's a number of teams that have 2 good tight ends. The Eagles don't have 2 good tight ends.
Yeah, I'm a bigger Calcaterra fan apparently than you are. I got faith that the kid's going to be able to play, stay healthy, and make plays. In the little bit we did see, he kind of flashed. The Eagles keep their players so much under wraps that he did actually get a chance and made some plays when he was out there. So Howie, I'm with you on that. The 6th round draft picks, 6th is a key Eagle draft round, and I think he's just going to be another one to add to that list. All right, Jody Mac here with you on Birds 365. He was in the green room a second ago. I guess he had to get a cup of coffee. Hopefully he gets it and comes back and is in front of his computer. Coming up next here on Birds 365, it will be our pleasure to talk to Seth Joyner, who, of course, is part of our JAKIB Media YouTube Eagles post-game show. Very much looking forward to having Seth as part of the team this year. He joins Becca Mac next here on Birds 365.
My wife was in an accident that changed our lives forever. She was in rehabilitation for years. She had to learn to walk again. She couldn't take care of herself. We couldn't afford a nurse. We were running out of options. One conversation with Pond Lee Hockey changed everything. They understood what we were going through and immediately helped us navigate the legal process. We can't thank them enough.
Pond Lee Hockey. Tell us your story.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
It's the #1 news at 10 p.m. Action News on PHL 17. Join Shari Williams, Gray Hall, Deuces Rogers, and meteorologist Adam Joseph for all the big stories at a time that's right for you. Action News at 10 p.m. on PHL 17.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
Welcome to Pond Lehocky. We've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. If you've been injured at work, give Pond Lehocky a call.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that. Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
John McMullen, Jonah McDonald, your Mega Mac Birds 365 guys are joined by greatness. All-time Eagle, great linebacker Seth Joyner, who's going to be part of our JAKIB Media YouTube channel family during this upcoming Eagles season. What the heck are you drinking this early in the morning out of a can, Joyner?
Oh, ginger ale, man.
All right. Yeah.
Ginger ale at 9:17. You go that early to the ginger ale?
Hey, it's better than coffee, man.
Yeah, it's very crisp ginger ale. I like ginger ale. I'm on board with
Sorry,
Seth.
I need the caffeine.
Yeah. Well, Seth, since we got you, obviously, I want to talk defense with you first and foremost. And, you know, you're known for being that aggressive mindset back on your defenses back in the day. The league's changed a little bit for a number of reasons, but if I told you that Jonathan Gannon is going to play the same way he played last year, but the Eagles defense is going to be better because they have more talent, would you be happy with that? Or do you need to see some schematic adjustments, more aggressiveness? What does Seth Joyner need to see out of this defense?
No, I don't like – listen, I mean, think about the defensive coordinators that have come through the city and the teams that have been successful. I just think the brand of defensive football in Philadelphia really needs to be a more aggressive style of football. Now, there are extremes when you talk about, you know, aggression. And I know a lot of people think that, you know, when they hear me talk about, you know, aggressive styles and defenses is that, you know, I'm talking about all-out blitzes, zero coverages and things like that. I get it that today's defensive coordinators are scared to death of those types of coverages, because the thing that they fear most is getting beat deep, you know, where we understood in our day that the quarterback, if the quarterback's the most important player on the field, and we got to figure out a way to disrupt him, disrupt his timing. Now, you can be aggressive, but you don't have to be overly aggressive. Like when I think about aggressive defensive coordinators, the first guy that comes to my mind is Buddy Ryan. Overly aggressive. You know, I mean, I'm sure you guys remember, you guys were around in the media when we had the San Francisco 49ers down 21-0 in the fourth quarter. And Buddy just, you know, took play calling away from Jeff Fisher and went blitz crazy. And we wound up, you know, giving up 4 touchdowns in 9 minutes and losing that game 28-21. That's like silly aggression. But I understood why he did it, because Buddy was the type of guy that wanted to send a message. Hey, we're going to see those guys in the playoffs down the road. We want them to know that their asses is kicked today and their asses is going to get kicked the same way tomorrow. So I get it. I understand. But defensive coordinators don't think that way today. And a guy like Bud Carson, he was like a nice medium, you know, guy between, he understood when to be aggressive and when to back off. So when you look at defenses today, to your point, John, you're 100% correct. Most of these guys are just scared, and they're going to play this bend but don't break style defense. But I submit to you, what that does is that always puts your offense, in a dicey situation, because your offense better be outscoring, the teams that you play, because the offense is the one that's going to have to make up the difference when you're talking about playing passive style defense.
Seth, I need you to give me your first impressions. And that's all we can have at this point, because the young man hasn't played a down in the National Football League yet. But we've got to see some preseason action and practice stuff and the like. They used their first-round draft pick on Jordan Davis, a man-child in the middle of the defensive line. You used to play behind a guy by the name of Jerome Brown, who could do a lot of the same things that Eagle fans are hoping Jordan Davis could do. What you've seen, what the coach have told you, what your impression is of Jordan Davis before his career ever takes off. How good is this kid going to be?
It's funny because, every time we get a defensive tackle in Philadelphia, the standard has always been Jerome Brown.
Jerome Brown, yeah.
When we got Fletcher Cox, when Fletcher started to ascend for a while, we wanted to make, those comparisons, and I used to shoot it down because I'd watch Fletcher play. And at times Fletcher would, show up big. And other times he'd kind of be like Casper the Ghost. You wouldn't even know he was on the field. So I got to a point, I'm like, don't you ever make that comparison, Jerome Brown and Fletcher Cox. He ain't even close to Jerome Brown, on his best day, because Jerome played every play. Now, when you talk about Jordan Davis, what Jordan Davis brings is an ability to play the run like Jerome. My biggest concern about Jordan is his weight, and can he move? Can he move? Can he have the type of movement that Jerome had? Because, when people think about Jerome, they primarily think about a run stopper and a guy, every once in a while could get a little bit of pressure, on the quarterback. But Jerome was highly athletic. His footwork was just, phenomenal for a guy his size. And he was a student of the game. There are many, many times where I'm off the ball behind him. He's got his hand on the ground, and he'd turn back and look at me. He'd be like, "Hey, man, I'm gone, cover me." I'm like, "Wait a minute, what the hell? You gone where?" Now I knew what he meant because, I understood gap responsibility in both directions, flow to and flow away, So I knew what he was up to. So if he was telling me, "Hey, I'm going to take your gap, you cover mine," and you want to know something, 9 times out of 10, when he did that, he made a play for a loss in the backfield. So I didn't have a problem with it, even if it meant me, having to take on 2 guys because, he was taking a chance. Now, does Jordan Davis have that potential? Absolutely. The mass alone helps the Eagles in the run game. But my concern when you move up to number 13th overall, to take this guy, is that did you just spend the draft capital and the movement that you had to make to move up and get him before the Baltimore Ravens, because they were very high on him?
Yeah.
Did you make those moves for a run stopper, or did you make those moves for a guy who can be the complete package, a defensive tackle? Because for all intents and purposes, Fletcher Cox signed a 1-year deal. Couldn't mean the end of his tenure here after this year. If his contract demands are going to remain as high as they are from a salary cap standpoint, you can't keep paying a guy, $14 to $15 to $20 million a year to give you 5 or 6 sacks, 3.5 last year per season. That's just bad economics when you look at your cap. But the question is, can they keep his weight under control? Because, last year he played at 355. He went to the combine at 340, tore it up, ran a 4.78. That's what, really threw his draft stock, way over the top. But, when I look at him, he's a little bit of a mama's boy. And mama's boys like to eat. Mama's going to come in town. She's going to cook them sweet potato pies, collard greens, cornbread, all that stuff, that'll make your ass fat. Okay. And at the other end of the spectrum, guys, he lives in the city of cheesesteaks and cakes. So if you don't keep this guy under control, man, he has the potential to be 350, 360, 365. And sometimes, organizations won't put their foot down and designate a weight for, their top players to stay at. And before you know it, you got a problem. Now, it seems to me he wants to be great and, he'll do the things that are necessary. But I would love to see him down at 325, 330. I think that, if you can get him down to that weight, now you can, get a jump rope in his hand, get a ladder, put him on the ladder every single day, work on his footwork. And now you can work on his movement, because it's one thing to have a guy to clog a double team, or a guy that you put him in the gap, and because he's in the gap, he can dominate that gap. Or even in your 5-man front, which I think the Eagles want to be in, a lot this year. If he's playing on the nose, there's not a center in the league that he can't dominate. But, you still want to be able to move. And I'm not talking about chasing that one play down and then tapping your helmet because you gassed and you out of breath and you got to come out of the game.
Let's talk about that scenario, Seth. If because I think we all think of Jordan Davis right now. He steps on the field probably as I don't want to say elite, but he's going to be a really good run stopper early in his career. Then long term, we'll see if he can develop into something more. But as a linebacker, if somebody you mentioned Jerome making plays, having that sort of innate ability to shoot a gap, somebody who's just taken up 2 blockers. What does that do for a linebacker? You kind of saw it at Georgia with Nakobe Dean, who's, kind of undersized. And when you see Nakobe Dean highlights, almost all the time, that big guy was right in front of him, taking up a bunch of blocks.
Well, listen, if I've never seen a successful linebacker, and I tell people all the time, I attribute, my success in the league, especially my first 8 years here in Philadelphia, to a great defensive front. I think it's hard to play the linebacker position when you don't have, a good front 4 in front of you. Double teams are going to happen. That's just a part of the blocking scheme, just because, you've got an odd number of players on the field rather than an even number. If there was 12 or 10 players on the field, everybody could get their man, and it's just, man on man. But because you have the odd number, and you got linebackers off the ball with defensive linemen on the ball, and you got to figure out how to get those second level guys blocked, you're going to face double teams. Now, the Eagles weren't that bad as far as double teams were concerned last year. It was just the linebackers did not understand how to fit. Anytime that I got a play side or even backside where one of my defensive tackles are doubled, it's my job to come downhill and take that double team off. Okay, if I can take that double team off, then that allows, the sooner I can do that, the sooner that allows that defensive tackle to maintain his gap integrity. And if I come down and I take him off the right way, whether it's, with the inside shoulder free, whether it's with the outside shoulder free, whether I'm turning it back, to my backer on the inside, or a safety that's dropping in the box, or whether I'm spilling it to the outside. Now what I do is I got my defensive tackle in his gap. I'm in my gap. The other tackle might be in his gap. Now we got a wall. But the problem is when these guys don't come downhill, when the linebackers don't come downhill, then you got 600 plus pounds laying on one defensive tackle, and you getting movement. So now he's pushing the guy 3-4 yards, down the field. And by the time he comes off to get on me, because I haven't moved from my 4 to 5 yards depth, they've already eaten up 5 yards of real estate. So now the wide receiver, the running back, hits the gap, and he's got a two-way go where he wants to go, or he's just staying close to the double team, until somebody makes a mistake and gets in the wrong gap, and then he exploits it.
Seth, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you're good.
All right. This is tremendously intriguing to me. The Eagles are probably going to play a quote-unquote 3-4 defense this year, with Hassan Reddick being a linebacker, whereas we think he's going to be up on line, getting to the quarterback, having to do some serious run coverage as well. You played the majority of your career in Philadelphia in a standard 4-3, which means you were an outside linebacker with 4 guys in front of you, but you were a guy who could get to the quarterback as a pass rushing linebacker. How would Seth Joyner have done with only 3 defensive linemen if you were an outside linebacker in a 3-4 rather than a 4-3? I know there's a whole bunch of intricacies to be able to pinpoint and have to break down and the like, but just generally speaking, would you have been even better in a 3-4 defense?
No, I don't think so. I think that my skill set was built, for a 4-3. Now, that doesn't mean that we didn't run, the 3-4. I mean, Buddy was masterful at the things that he did. Sometimes we'd be in a 4-3. We shift the line over. Clyde would stand up, especially early in his career, because when Clyde and I were drafted, hell, I weighed more than Clyde. Clyde wasn't built 35 pounds, So early in our career, we morph. We could morph from 3-4 to 4-3 and back and forth, and it causes a myriad of problems. With the blocking scheme if you do it the right way. As far as playing in that system, it's a big difference between being the guy that plays over on the strong side that has to deal with the tight end all the time, and the guy that lines up in the catbird seat, the weak side end, because really he just becomes the fourth pass rusher. And I don't really, especially today, I don't really get so bent out of shape so much on 4-3, or a 30 front, just because personnel today dictates defensively what offensive personnel, I should say, dictates the defensive personnel that you put on the field. So primarily, most teams, for the most part, are 4-2, 4-1, depending on what you bring in the back end, whether you actually go nickel or dime or big dime or whatever it is that you do. But for the most part, you're a 4-2 defense now in these 3 wide receiver sets. The interesting thing for me is going to be, you sign Hassan Reddick, and I'm curious to see how they're going to use him. Do you line him up just in the 4-man look in third down situations? Are you primarily going to line up in a 5-man look? Because what he brings to the defense is the ability to do what Kerrigan and Jannard Avery could not do last year. They couldn't. They were passing liabilities, in the scheme, especially in the red zone, passing liabilities, in that defense. When they got into it, teams pretty much knew that they had to play zone behind us. So one of those guys was going to come, one of those guys was going to drop, and whatever side dropped, that's the side that they attacked, because those guys didn't have, the skill set to be able to drop into coverage or cover, a tight end or cover, a back out of the backfield. I think that kind of goes away with a guy like Hassan Reddick, because he can do all of those things much more effectively than those 2 guys. But then again, you didn't pay him what you paid him to bring him here, to drop into coverage and cover guys. This guy has had double-digit sacks the last 2 years. That was the value of why you signed him, during free agency. So my biggest question is, how are you going to use the kid? Because you can't line him up, in a 4-man front at 6'2", 235 to 50 pounds, and think that he's going to survive an entire season against, offensive linemen that are 320 to 335. So I'm just really curious as to, how they're going to deploy him and how they're going to use him. I know how I would. I've got all kind of ideas and different things that I could do with him. But, I'm curious to see what Jonathan Gannon is going to do. I'm not the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, JG calls them overhang players, so that's what Hassan Reddick's going to mainly be. But you're going to have the curveball where he's going to have to drop into coverage, because you got to mix things up. But I want to get your thoughts, Seth, on a true off-ball linebacker on this team, and that's TJ Edwards, because I think he's the most underrated player on this team, and a lot of it stems from how he came in as an undrafted guy. And for those who don't know, Seth was an 8th round pick back. They don't even have 8 rounds now. So back in '86, I believe, 8th round pick. Do you feel like as a late round pick who's developing, and by the way, Damo is fighting every year to get you in the Hall of Fame. Seth should be in the Hall of Fame. So we should say that. Do you find a kinship with these guys who sort of make their way, undrafted, late round picks who develop? But TJ still got that, people are always saying, okay, when is Nakobe going to take his job? What do you think of TJ Edwards as you look at him as an all-ball linebacker?
Well, I think that, TJ got a taste of what it's like to be a starter last year. I think he's extremely smart, especially in the run game. I think he's gotten to a point where he understands zone coverages, but I think the passing game, is where, his liabilities lie. If I was to, game plan offensively against him, I'd try to figure out a way to put him in the mixer as much as I could, whether that's in man coverage, or whether in zone. I would be scheming, how to stretch him out of his zones because he doesn't have the foot speed that some of these other linebackers have. But the issue is, when you're one of those guys that there's not much expected of, and you have what's in here, to fight, a lot of times all you need is an opportunity. And last year, TJ got a taste of what it was like to be a starter, and he's just not giving it up. The only thing that might get him off the field is an injury, and play quotas, if you will, because nobody plays the whole game anymore. So Nakobe's going to get some playing time. Some of these other backups are going to get some playing time just because, the analytics, in my opinion, has kind of ruined the game from the standpoint that says most of these guys only play 55 to 60% of the plays. I mean, as defensive starters, the only guys that play the entire game is the quarterback and the offensive line. Everybody else, they're like rotating them in because the analytics say, the more that they play, the higher the probability somewhere down the road, they may get hurt because they're playing tired. My thing is, why don't you get your ass in shape to play 75 plays a game, so you can stay out there. I never wanted to come off the field. I always felt like if I gave my rep to, my backup, he might get one of my sacks or one of my interceptions or one of my caused fumbles. So, you know what? If I got to suck wind until I can get it together, I ain't coming off the field. But these guys are just wired different, and they've been kind of brainwashed by sports science and trainers and all of this crap, that this is the way that you should do it. So all these guys are going to get some playing time. But, TJ, he's not going to give up the opportunity, to be that guy in the middle, not going into the second year playing, in this system. So he's going to be better in this system than he was last year. And last year, he was the best linebacker, in my opinion, that they had. But, you talk about TJ, and I love an underdog story, man. But I'm telling you right now, that kid, Kazir White, he's going to be a Pro Bowl linebacker this year, man.
Nice.
I love what he does when I watch him play. Extremely cerebral, understands the game. He's thinking ahead in the play, and he's playing the game in the quarterback's head. That first preseason game where he intercepted the ball, the way he kind of baited the quarterback. I mean, you just don't see linebackers do that. They're always looking at the quarterback like a deer in the headlights. And by the time the quarterback throws the ball, now they're breaking. You can see him anticipate that play long before the quarterback even thought about it, thought about throwing it there. So I like what he brings at the table. And guess what? The Philadelphia Eagles
have linebackers.
They finally got a linebacker.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? They finally got a linebacker. I can finally watch Philadelphia Eagles football without pulling my damn hair out. And y'all know I'm bald.
Not as much as there used to be. All right, Seth, I need to get inside your head. when it comes to quarterbacks. And you get a unique perspective on this. You didn't have to play him in the regular season, but you did have to go up against him in practice. And I'm talking about Randall Cunningham. Jalen Hurts has a skill. He, after Lamar Jackson, for me, is the second best running quarterback in the National Football League. I think the Eagles would like him to run less this year. I have this kind of niggling fear in the back of my neck that says, yeah, they may take that weapon away from him, and I don't want to see that happen because he made too many plays with his legs last year. I'm cool with reducing it, but I don't want to see it disappear. How difficult is it to play linebacker against a guy like a Randall? You did that, comparing to what Jalen Hurts is. Is this something that the Eagles have to handle very carefully this year, that they want to continue to benefit from it, but not make it disappear?
No, I think that Jalen Hurts needs to continue to develop, and I think he needs to continue to use the skill set that allowed them to have the number one running offense, in the NFL last year. I mean, they averaged 159 yards a game, and a lot of that had to do with Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
Now, when you look at a guy like Lamar Jackson, who's slight of frame, you just knew that it was a matter of time before he was going to get broke up the way that he was running. You look at a guy like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts squats 600 pounds. Man.
Yeah.
I mean, you got linebackers and offensive linemen that can't, lift that kind of weight. Now, I'm not worried about the lower body injuries so much as I am, what can transpire in the upper body. Now, can he help himself by being smart, by getting down? Absolutely. But, listen, I agree. They've got to just allow him to play the game the way that he plays it. But it's incumbent upon the coaching staff. And this is, this is my take. I was just talking with someone about this just the other day. We're moving into an era where the spread offense has dominated football. So 2 tight end sets, 2 back sets, that's 12 or 21 personnel. You'll see it, but you're not going to see it a lot. Teams want to go 3 wides and they want to open the game up. If that's the case, you see these young quarterbacks in high school and you see these young quarterbacks in college that have these skill sets. They can throw the ball, but they can run like a damn deer, and these coordinators aren't hell-bent on stopping them from running because they understand that if it's zone, you can scramble, horizontally to the line so guys can come back. If it's zone, if it's man, you take off because all they got is one safety back there. He's 40 yards down the field. By the time, the defenders who are man-to-man look up, if he can break, if the quarterback can get outside the pocket, by the time he look back, he's going to get 15, 20 yards before the defense can even react to him. My thing is, when you see, black quarterbacks, very rarely in history have you seen offensive coordinators say, okay, we're going to develop this guy. Like when Lamar Jackson came out, I wanted Lamar to go to I can remember I was on Speak for Yourself with Colin Cowherd and Jason Whitlock. And I said, man, I want that guy to go to New England. And it was like, New England? Why would you want him to go to New England? I'm like, because he's going to be able to sit behind Tom Brady for a few years. He's going to have the benefit of Josh McDaniels and the brain power of Bill Belichick to work with him and teach him how to be a quarterback, how to go through your progressions, how to read defenses, how to notice when teams are trying to disguise things. All of those things help you develop. That's the problem. He goes to Baltimore, okay, and they develop an offense for his skill sets instead of developing a quarterback and having him develop into the offense, So he's got to run the ball the way he's running it because that's the way the offense has been set up. And until he evolves as a passer of the football, they're going to win some games, but they're not going to win a Super Bowl, And most coaches and most organizations, even most media people say, well, that's just not the way we do it anymore. You draft these guys, that high, they've got to get on the field and they've got to play right now. No, you got to develop these players because they're not going to get it, at the high school or the collegiate level. Those coaches are concerned with nothing more than winning. So if these guys don't step outside of the box, kind of like Jalen Hurts did with House this year, go and find you a guy.
Yeah.
Teach you the skill set if your organization is not going to do it. Because if he can play from the pocket, he can operate from the pocket. This is the thing for Jalen Hurts. If you can operate from the pocket and then use your athleticism only when you have to, okay, it's going to be hard to stop this offense because they're going to be able to run the ball if the offensive line is healthy. And people think that, I'm this run, run. It turned their season around last year. But listen, this year they got to find out whether Jalen Hurts can be the guy long term. They have to know after this season. And the only way that's going to happen is Jalen Hurts is going to have to throw the ball 30 to 35 times per game. Okay, he's going to have to complete over 65% of his passes. His turnover ratio is going to have to be somewhere in the 5 to 4 touchdown to 1 ratio. Okay, his QBR is going to have to be way higher than what it was last year, and his rating is going to have to go up. Now, is that possible? I say absolutely. He's got a second year to be in an offensive system. It's the first time in the last 6 years of him playing football that he's ever been in a system for more than 1 year. Okay. He's got weapons all over the place. Okay. I mean, you got running backs that can run the football. You got an offensive line that can block both in the run game and the pass game. So you start the game off with dominance by running the football. Then you get into your play action pass and you make it that much easier for your offensive line to block. All of these things, are in Jalen Hurts' favor. Now, as he put in the work off the field, it's one thing to go to the gym and get bulked up. He's bigger, stronger, probably a little bit faster, because I think that injury at the end of last year where he was out for 1 game, set a little something off in his mind. You look at him now, he's a little bigger. But it's one thing in the, on the field to put in the work, but do you put in the work off the field? Can Jalen Hurts close his eyes on any given pass play and tell me at what depth and at what position every guy that's out in the route is at? Okay, that's the level of improvement at quarterback that you have to see. Because even though he might be reading right to left, his progression is right to left. If his safety valve is over here on the left, and he knows that time is running out, you know where to go with the ball. There's no thought about it. When you look at guys like Brady and Rodgers and all of these, upper echelon quarterbacks, they understand where every single guy is on every single play, every running play. They even understand, and he doesn't have to do that because he's got one of the greatest centers, in the history of the Philadelphia.
Yeah.
But it behooves you to know the total plan. Like when I played, I had to know everything. If we were in a blitz and it didn't work, I could tell you why it didn't work, because it was schemed for one guy to get there. And if he didn't get there, I could tell you why. He took a wrong gap, something, but you could focus in. So as a quarterback, multiply that. Not only do you have to be able to stand at the line and be able to look at the defense and decipher pre-snap what the hell they're doing, but you better know, it better be like walking and chewing gum, when you think about your offense and how it's supposed to operate and who's open and all of those things. And you take it a step further, being able to get in and out of plays. I would assume, I would say there's probably 10 to 15 looks that Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen and Jalen Hurts will go over each and every week that, hey, if they give us this look, this is what we want to check to. We want to be in this. This gives us the best opportunity, to take a shot or take advantage, because this play is set up to defeat this coverage. The minute you see it, let's check. Does he have the cerebral nature to be able to look out and decipher it in a calm way and be able to get that done. Now, there's no reason for him not to succeed. He's got weapons everywhere. He's got a running game. He's got a tight end who I believe that will ascend into the top 3 of tight ends this year. He's got a wide receiver group that forces you to pay attention. And you don't want to know the last thing? As a defensive coordinator, Bill Belichick always tried to take away your best asset. They couldn't beat the Eagles back in 2017 in the Super Bowl because the Eagles had too damn many assets. Go ahead and take away Zach Ertz. Look at everything else we got. How are you going to stop Alshon and Nelson and Corey and a young baby Dallas? You know what I'm saying? So you have all of these elements, when you look at the Eagles offense, if these guys stay healthy, who do you stop? If you try to take away A.J. Brown, who to me is really, an intermediate route runner more so than he is a deep guy, now you mean to tell me you're going to leave Dallas Goedert one-on-one, with a linebacker or safety? You're going to leave Devontae Smith, who's been making, defensive backs from other organizations look like clowns all summer. You're going to leave that guy one-on-one? So, it's all right there in front of him, and I believe that he's ready to take the step. Now the coaching staff has just got to call plays that allows him, to succeed, with balance. Now that 30 to 35 doesn't mean you come out and you throw the first 10 plays of the game and then you try to get into, your running game. And then over the course of the game, you let him throw, another 25 times. That's a good mix, because the worst thing that for a defensive player, the worst thing is when they start running the ball up your behind and you can't do anything about it. And all of a sudden they go play action pass and they stick that ball out of there. It forces linebackers, tackles, and safeties to give pause.
That's Seth Joyner. Tremendous. I wish we had another hour because I wanted to get into it.
I can do 2 more hours talking to Seth Joyner.
Unbelievable. Football IQ for this game. Seth Joyner on the JAKIB post-game show starts this week after the game in Detroit. Excited to see what you and Mike Missinelli and Devin Caney, everybody's going to bring to that program. Thrilled to have you on JAKIB Sports. We got to get you again because I got to talk about this Jalen Hurts and just the change in the game and his ability to evolve. They don't have as much time to practice as you did, Seth. So we gotta get back in. We got to get into that at some point because
they always. Guys, I'm just gonna call y'all the J and J show. Listen, they always overcorrect. Yeah. Every single time that there's an adjustment, it's always an overcorrection. Okay, football is not a faint of heart game. I get it. You got sued for $760 million, and then the judge came back and slapped a $1.3 billion deal on you. So I get it. Okay, you got to make some adjustments. That will filter all the way down to the youth level. I get it. Okay, but there's an overcorrection because there's not a single football player that doesn't know the occupational hazards of playing the game of football. Okay, and you are mortgaging your physical body for the king's ransom. We know that. We understand that. But the adjustments that they've made are so just ridiculous. I'm watching these guys, with these Gazoo helmets running around it.
The great Gazoo.
See, you got to be over 50 to know who Gazoo is.
Yeah,
right?
Great Gazoo. So, Johnny and I do.
Yeah, they're running around at practice with these damn Gazoo helmets on, and it gives the illusion that you're protecting the players.
Yeah, but that's what it is. It's about the illusion. That
helmet ain't got nothing to do with how your brain moves around in your head when you make contact. Whether you got a Gazoo helmet on or whether you got a 1950s leather helmet with no face mask on it. It doesn't matter, but players realize that, hey, you know what? This is what we do. So now you chop everything back, practice time. I mean, for example, you tell me my rookie year, the spring of my rookie year was the most crucial year of my career. Okay, you guys might have to edit some of this, but it was the most crucial off season of my career, because when my rookie season was over, I go in for my exit interview. Buddy asked me, he's like, what's your plans for the offseason? Well, I think I'm going to go back to El Paso, enroll in school, get to working out, get ready for next year. He says, well, you're either going to be a football player or a student. The offseason program begins February 28th, okay? So guess where I was on February 28th? Right here in the city of brotherly love.
Yeah.
I was here until the coaches went on vacation in June. Monday through Friday, every day we worked, okay? Now, think about this rule where, the coaches can only work with the players during OTAs. What a crock that is, okay?
Yeah.
If my quarterback is in the building, okay, I should have the ability as the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and the quarterback coach to be able to work with my guy. I now understand the rule. Man. Because the voluntary, involuntary thing, Buddy used to say it all the time. Oh, the minicamp is voluntary, but don't show up if you want to and see if your ass got a roster spot. From cut down time. You understand? Yeah. So I understand why they put it in place. But even if a guy wanted to come in and work with his coach on basic techniques and fundamentals and watch film and go out on the field and work drills, the collective bargaining agreement prevents him from doing it. That's to me, that's the biggest travesty, and the fact that you're only on the field for an hour and a half, and all corrections are made, in the film room. You can't correct physically what has to be corrected physically in the film room. It needs to be run again and corrected on the field.
Seth, unfortunately, we be out of time.
I hear you,
like
brother.
I said before, we could do 2 hours, another 2 hours.
Yeah, we could do
if we had the time. We will do 2 hours, 45-minute chunks at a time. We're going to get you on a bunch during the season. We're very much looking forward to the post-game show with you and the crew down at Oceans. Thank you for coming on with us today. We'll talk plenty during the year, big guy. Thank you very much.
You got it.
Thanks, Seth.
Seth Joyner, all-time Eagle, great linebacker. Oh, yeah, I could just listen to for hours.
Yeah, he's tremendous. We got to close the show. We're going to skip the break, Jody. But just real quick, I didn't mention D Gunn, that post-game show as well. D Gunn's a big part of that. Seth is awesome because I got to be honest with you. Most players, ex-players, they don't give you a lot. They're very political. Seth gives you the real skinny, so to speak, gives you his true thoughts, his true evaluations. Yeah, I can't wait to talk to him about the scale backs because, what he says about the quarterbacks, I agree in theory, but I was talking to a personnel guy a couple of weeks ago. I mentioned on the show, and they said, 1 out of every 7, 8 throws is a full field progression. Like it doesn't exist anymore. No. And that I can't wait to get into that. But what a phenomenal addition to JAKIB Sports, Seth Joyner.
Absolutely is. We're glad to have him on today. And since he seemed to enjoy talking to us, we're going to have him back on again. If he's good enough to come out with us again, you need to catch him every single week during Eagle season on the Eagle postgame show right here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. All right. We probably cut into our buddy Rick Saratelli's show. He is coming up next. J-Mac, I'll catch you back here tomorrow. You in?
I'm in.
We'll both be in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.